enforcement group of individuals. And the reason why I say that is, in a community that you serve, the people are more, or the public are more appreciative and more trustworthy of the police department.
Here.
And that is good. Absolutely. Coming to a place like Seattle for me was challenging, because here I was thinking that the people would be the same, right? But now there's a challenge of, I need to gain their trust.
Yeah.
And the difficulties that come with that is when you have, sometimes you may have public officials that think otherwise, right? And it creates that wedge between the community and the police in what we're trying to accomplish in our job. And I think that's what makes it challenging. And that's what makes me want to stay in this job more, is because if I can share that Aloha Spirit and share that trust, even in one person, they can walk away knowing, hey, you know what? When I was in Seattle, I met a police officer. They're not all bad, right? I get disheartened when those messages come out, basically demonizing police, right? Yeah. Because we've all come into this occupation, coming into this noble profession, exuding those noble qualities of helping people. We put on a uniform with that expectation of going into danger in what the public expects us to do. And I enjoy working in another place where I can share our culture, whether it's playing the ukulele in an airport terminal, right? Whether it's even speaking pidgin amongst the HPD officers, but we also like to have get-togethers, right? We also like to share having potluck even with our own partners. So we had a Sunday dinner in the station, and it was something that's never heard of, where you had a group of people that can break bread together from different police departments, because we've all come from different police departments to the Port of Seattle. We've all had different experiences. We have one officer that was all the way as far as Georgia, as a Georgia sheriff that came over, right? So you're breaking bread with people you wouldn't necessarily break bread with. And it's different because you're learning about your partners a little bit more. Here, culturally, it's different because you start off in a police academy. You're a civilian. You go 6.5 months training, and you become a police officer. And
everybody here goes through the same thing. So you've all gone through that same gambit of training and hardship, to get to where you are. But you're saying from your police department, you're having people that are coming from different backgrounds that are coming in as lateral police officers.
Yes, and that comes with different personalities. Right. But it's so enjoyable because you have so many different officers with different skill sets that come together. Sure. They have different, a lot of strengths, a lot of weaknesses, and we just pry off of each other. But I always say the officers here, there's something about officers here that you can't beat anywhere else. And I wish I could put my finger on it. I don't know, maybe you can try to put a finger on it, that what makes Hawaii officers unique. I can't tell you.
I think the one obvious thing that sticks out to me here in Hawaii is that it's such a small community. It's, Oahu, 1 million people or less. And from everyone that I've met in all my comings and goings that I've talked to about knowing, or when they find out I'm a police officer or whatever, and they ask me, oh, do you know so-and-so? Oh, do you know so-and-so? Like, whoever I meet, they know someone in the police department, or they're related to someone in the police department. And I think that's what makes it a little bit different, is that we have such a large police department in such a small populated area. So you're related to someone, or someone that's a police officer. Or as a police officer, whenever you're in an engagement with someone else, you don't know if they're related to one of your partners. Or someone in a different district, or if they're friends with someone in a different district. So you kind of try to treat them with a little bit more respect because you don't know who they might know. And I think that goes for, almost any profession here in Hawaii, is that you never know who you might know. I mean, it's a small island.
Right.
And I think that kind of attitude helps in a lot of ways. It brings that small town kind of vibe and feel to the police department and the community here. Where when something happens to a police officer, like in January of 2020, when, those 2 police officers were killed, a lot of people knew them. A lot of people in the public knew them. And their faces were, blasted out there. And people started coming back with, oh, I knew that person. Oh, I did know that person. And it brings it to reality that, hey, yes, in some instances it is us versus them, but in a lot of instances it's not. It is, we are in this together as a community, and it's such a strong community-oriented police department because we are related to the people that we serve.
Coming back in last January and February for both of the funerals was very difficult for me. One, because there were two officers that I'd known.
Yeah.
The second hardest part was wearing a different uniform. I was in a different uniform. There were about 20 of us from the Pacific Northwest that came. I think total was maybe between 40 or 50 officers that came nationwide. And it felt a little bit isolated because now I was an outsider because I'm wearing a different uniform of a different department coming for the purpose of
that's your own mind
being there.
That's your own mind making that decision, because I look at that as, look at this individual that has gone through the fire that we all have here in Honolulu, going through the police department and everything, and then has gone off and shared that, responsibility, mana'o, with another police department, with another community. And he's doing the same job and taking the same values and the same heart to another place. And that's where he's sharing it. And he's bringing that back and representing that, yes, he is doing this same type of work, if not better work, in another place.
And you're correct, because the Port of Seattle allowed the three of us officers to represent the port, and they never hesitated